Welcome back to TinyKeyHoleMinis. I'm Jolene, and today's video is inspired by Rosanna Makes. Rosanna makes cute little critters with spun cotton, and today I'm going to make a mouse. If you want to see a more elaborate tutorial on this, please click the link in the description box below to her channel. And if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe. So today will be a character that I am making for my first Mysfit doll in the doll series, and I need a little mouse. If you've missed my intro video to Myah's Mysfit dolls, please click the link in the description box below if you would like to see that. So you're going to need some cotton balls for this and some tobacco pipe cleaners. Tobacco pipe cleaners are a little bit different than regular Chanel pipe cleaners because they have barbed wire on them. So they're a little sharp when twisting around. You just got to be super careful, but it helps the cotton to stick better. And some wire. I'm using Dollar Tree floral wire, but Rosanna explains it's best to use a wire that's covered or wrapped with paper, and I don't have any of that, so I'm just going to use masking tape to cover this wire, and it works out just fine. So I've already taped a piece that I'm going to use, and I'm really sorry about my camera flickering. I always forget to switch the setting off on my phone, so it tries to focus in the forefront a lot, and I'm going to try to remember to do that going forward. And you're also going to need some watered down glue solution and a paintbrush, but you can use your fingers as well. And you're just going to start by bending the head. So I'm just taking the tip of the pipe cleaner and bending it back on itself and just creating a little head, kind of like a little bent hook. Now, Rosanna explains the do's and don'ts and what materials are best to use. So if you really want to see a more thorough tutorial on this, please go to her channel because I'm not going to be doing that type of tutorial. So for the arms, I've just bent them around the pipe cleaner, and now I'm just twisting the end piece around the head. And you want to leave your limbs, your arms and your legs a little bit longer than you're going to need if you're beginning. Since this is my first time doing this, I'm going to leave mine a little longer. But if I do this again, I'll know to cut them shorter and I won't be wasting as much wire. So now I'm just going to attach the legs. If one twist isn't good enough and nice and tight, then just twist it another time. So for the legs, I had to twist twice. For the arms, I just twisted once. You just want to make sure that your wire is nice and tight and it doesn't move around on you. So we're just basically creating a very simple armature. So once I got this little body shape how I like it, I'm going to give the leg a little snip, and I'll be snipping them even shorter later on. Now I'm going to take the remaining pipe cleaner and just bend it upwards. If you want your little mouse to be in a certain position, then you can very well move your pieces around to create that position. So now I need a towel, and I'm going to have to wrap another piece of wire. If you've got to wrap your wire as well with some masking tape, you just want to make sure you're wrapping it super tight and try to get it as thin as you can. Some of this was really thin and I liked it, and then some of the parts of the towel were a little bit thicker, but it's okay. It's going to work out. I guess that just takes a little practice. So I'm just sticking it through the end piece and wrapping it around. And then I'm going to wrap the end piece around itself, right around that torso part. So it's nice and tight, and then I'm going to snip off the excess. And now I have a little armature. Now, for the mouse, in the story, her tail is really long. I am going to trim it down, but she will have a long tail. You can create your tail however long you would like. And now you just take a cotton ball and just unwrap it. I'm just going to pull the cotton apart and start with longer pieces for the body. And you just want to make sure that your cotton piece is nice and smooth. So just kind of make some adjustments to lay it down so it's a nice smooth piece. And I'm just going to start with the torso area and begin to wrap around going upwards. Now you don't need a lot of the glue solution. Use very little bit. Use as little bit as you can. You just need to seal these pieces closed. So I'm just going to take my brush, and every time I take my brush, I'm just kind of brushing the excess off in the jar. And then I'm just applying a little bit at a time. So you don't want to soak your piece. You want it to stay as dry as you can get it, because over the different layers, it's going to get wetter. So you just want to use a little bit at a time and just lay that end down and seal it closed. You can use your fingers to make adjustments and also to smooth it out a little more. I'm going to shape her tail just a little bit, and remember, I'm creating a mouse from a story that's going to go with the Mysfit doll. So I'm creating this mouse to look like the mouse in the story. So I'm just trying to get as close to the illustration as possible and make a little 3D form of that. Just make her come to life. Okay, so I'm continuing to just add more layers and build the bulk of her body. Now this is just a basic body form. You don't have to be so perfect at this, because once she goes through her first drying process, we're going to be adding more on top of her to finalize that body form and just give her more detailed shape. So I'm just wrapping her around. I used a little bit to lay it down, and now I'm just using a little more to seal it closed. And I'm just going to continue to do this until I'm happy with that form. Now she's a little field mouse, so she's going to be a little plump and she's going to be a darker mouse. Rosanna paints the cutest little mice, and I really want to paint her like that, but she needs to be a little darker. I'm going to snip her legs to the length that I would like them to be, and they're just going to be little short stubby legs or paws, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to snip her arms as well, but her arms are going to be longer than her legs. And if you would like your mouse to hold something, you want to leave them a little longer so that they're able to do that. But I'm going to continue to move on to the limbs, and I'm using smaller pieces. I'm making sure that they're nice and smooth, and I'm beginning at the connecting point. Now it's not going to look like much right now, but again, I'll be adding more, and in the end, she'll look like she needs to be. So you want to wrap the limbs nice and tight and just continue to build the layers as you go along. And you want to start at the connecting point and kind of wrap it around going down to the end, and just kind of taper it down when you get towards the end. So just twisting it, using the solution when you need it or as much as you need, and adding small pieces at a time, and just keep twisting it towards the end and taper it down when you get towards the very end of her paw. Seal it and just keep twisting it, and just apply as much as you need as needed. You just want to make sure for the limbs and the tail that you're twisting nice and tight. For the body, you just want to wrap the cotton to lay down on itself as you're going along, because you'll be locking that into place with the glue solution. So you don't want to wrap tightly for the body, because you're going to need that bulk as well. And if you have any excess hanging over, you can just snip that off with some scissors. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the other arm, starting at the connecting point, using a little bit of the solution to connect it, smooth it down, and begin to wrap. Wrap nice and tight. You want the connecting points to be more bulky, and then you want it to get more slender and taper down as you go outward. Okay, it's the same process for the legs and the tail. So I got those started with their first layer, and I've bent her arms in just a little bit to give them a little bit of shape. And my cotton is pretty dry, so you don't want your cotton to be soaked. You want to try and keep it as dry as you can. And now I'm just going to continue to add some shape to her body. So I'm going to build her connecting points around her limbs. So I'm just adding more to her limbs. And now I'm going to add flatter pieces. And I'm going to begin to build her haunches, her little pork chops around her legs, her thighs. So I'm just adding some bulk and giving her a little more of a defined shape. You just keep adding until you're happy with the shape of your little mouse body. You can also use your fingers or the tip of the brush to create some more definition and just give some finer detail. Now I'm going to begin adding to the head and around the face, and we'll add some ears as well. So I'm just beginning to build the bulk up right around the back of her head because it's a little wider towards the back of the head than the front. Your cotton pieces will lay down a lot smoother if the ends of the pieces that you're using are a bit thinner. And you could just smooth it down with your fingers and add just a little bit of solution. So now for the ears, you want to take a small piece and you want it to be nice and thin and smooth. So you just want to flatten it down just a little bit so it's nice and thin, and kind of curve it like a horseshoe or a U shape, and then wet it. Now the ears are a little tricky and it did take me a few times, but they're still pretty simple. And then you just want to kind of pinch the bottoms to kind of curve it into like maybe a little shell shape. You want the thinness to be almost transparent. You can smooth down any flyaways, and then you just attach it to where you want it to lay and wrap the end piece going around the opposite direction of the head or underneath. Using your glue solution, you just want to use tiny bits of cotton. You want to make sure they're nice and flat just to secure the ears at the connecting points. So just wrap them around the back and around the front. Okay, I've baked my mouse for the first round in my toaster oven at 250 for about 20 minutes. But if you leave her in for 30 minutes, you'll get little toasty ends around the ears and the limbs and the tail. Now, this mouse needs to have little white ends, so I only left her in for 20 minutes. but I do like that little toasty look. So I think in the future, if I make more, I will definitely give them little toasty paws and the little brown tips around the ears. But you can see her little haunches on her little pork chops. And I'm going to continue to add some more to her body to smooth her down and give her a little more of a defined shape. So using little bits at a time, making sure they're nice and flat, I'm just going to begin to build around her pork and chops and in the connecting points in the areas that needs a little more bulk. Okay, you can use several different things for the eyes. I'm using a pair of beads and I had to paint them black because I didn't have any black ones. And these are a little bit larger because the mouse in the story has really large eyes. So I'm just going to add these with a little bit of hot glue and I'm just popping them right into place. But you can use sewing pins and paint the tips and just poke them into place. You can use clay eyes. You can paint the eyes. You can use peppercorns. There's several different things you can use for your little eyes. You can make them as big or as little as you would like. Once you get your eyes on, you just want to take tiny little strips of the cotton and just lay them around the top and the bottoms of the eyes just to set them into place so they don't look like they're just sitting on top of her head. They actually will look like they're sitting inside her face. They'll just look more natural. And I'm just going around to smooth the areas and adding where I need to. Okay, my mouse is pretty wet and I'm going to begin painting her with watercolor paint. You can wait till she dries and paint her with acrylics. You can paint her while she's wet. The watercolors work really well while your mouse is still wet. Except I'm using Crayola washable watercolor paints and they are not very good at all. They're made for kids. They're the only ones that I had, and I don't like them at all. They dry with a waxy feel to them in the end. They're just not very good quality watercolor paints. But I'm going to use this for now, and now she's nice and dried. I let her dry for a few days, and you can see her first base coat, which is kind of like a golden brown, because she does have golden highlights underneath, but I'm going to go in and darken her coat. Now that she's dry, I'm going to use acrylic paint and I'm going to use a raw umber color and just add to her coloring and then give her some detailing and move forward from there. I definitely don't recommend using Crayola watercolors or probably any kind of Crayola paint, but it's not too bad. She looks a little brindle, but we're going to fix her up some more. Now, I have to say, I left her on my desk and I forgot about her. When I came back in, she scared me. She was sitting on my desk like this and I did get a little fright. Her painting process took a few days. It was a little difficult to paint her because I'm trying to make her look like the illustration. So I would paint her a little bit, put her down, come back to her, paint her a little bit, and I just kept moving along like that so that I wouldn't get frustrated or burnt out. So it did take a little bit of time. Now Rosanna paints hers very simply, and they're so gosh darn cute, and they have a lot of white to them. You can paint yours however you'd like. You can go with a simple coat. You can go with a more heavier, realistic coat, however you would like to make your cute little mouse. But in the end, she turns out absolutely adorable. So this is just the process as I'm going along over the few days that it took. Okay, this little mouse is wearing a few garments, and I created a little apron out of an old shirt, and I've actually left the hem to be the tie on the apron, and I'm just going to cut it down just a little bit more to make the tie a little thinner, and I'm going to trim down the apron to fit the mouse. She's wearing a little blue scarf with a brooch, so I'm going to use these little nail decals to create a little brooch for the front of her scarf. And I'm just going to paint the inside brown, and I'm going to paint the outside gold. And then there's something white in her brooch, so I'm going to use one of these tiny little white flowers to put that into place. For her scarf, I just cut a little strap off of an old jumper that I had, and this was perfect for her little scarf. I believe it's kind of light blue. I also have a little jump ring, and I'm just going to see if I can fit it through, kind of dry fitting it so that I can make sure this works and I don't need to go get a bigger one. So I'm just going to pull the strap through the jump ring like so, and then I'll just attach the little brooch to that. There's the little tiny flower. That's how tiny it is. So I'm going to try not to lose it before I glue it into place. But I'm just using a little bit of tacky glue and then just placing it right in the middle. Now I'm going to unpeel the little sticker and place it on to some brown cardstock. And I'm adding a little bit of tacky glue for this. And then I'll just place it down. Once it dries, I'm going to trim it out. Okay, so her painting is done, and she needs some whiskers. So I'm going to give her some whiskers. You could add whiskers, or you could just add the little dots. You don't have to. I have this long, supposed to be dead grass that I purchased off of Temu, but it's more like silk doll hair, and I thought it was perfect for whiskers. So I got a little bundle, and I'm just going to cut it right in the middle where I've gathered it. It's definitely not for dead grass. And now I'm just using a little sewing pin to poke a hole. I'm going to dip the little bundle, and I'm only getting about 2 or 3 at a time. I'm dipping it in tacky glue and just popping it right in the hole. And then I'll just adjust it into place. And I'm only doing 2 holes on each side. Again, using 3 or 2 little whiskers. Dipping it in the tacky glue. And then just popping it right into place in the hole. And right now they're super long, but wow, they really do look like real whiskers. So I'll trim them down, but they're so cute. Now I'm going to cut out the brooch, and we'll get this little mouse dressed. Okay, tiny friends, here she is. I loved this technique so much, and I am definitely going to make more of these tiny little mice. I want to paint them all different so they have their own individual looks, and just place them around my studio and put little garments on them, and then they'll keep me company Oh my gosh, so adorable. I am going to do a final draping on her apron to make it lay more natural with a glue solution, so I'll do that in the end. I want to thank you, Rosanna at Rosanna Makes, for sharing this wonderful technique. For the most part, it was pretty simple. So, tiny friends, go check out her channel and see what else she makes out of spun cotton. This is such a neat technique. Stay tuned to see what story this cute little mouse belongs to. I'll be creating a scene and adding a Mysfit doll. I hope you all have enjoyed this video today, and if so, please don't forget to click that like button and give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this cute little mouse and if you would like to try this technique. If so, please check out Rosanna Makes. Just click the link in the description box below to check out her video of how she makes a spun cotton mouse and all the other little critters that she's making. They're so adorable. As always, I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and to welcome all my new subscribers. Thank you all so much for your support. Until next time, tiny friends, you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all on the mini side.